An elite cybersecurity professional, aka CyberSpartan, is like a rare Pokemon card. And as with all rare Pokemon cards, they are expensive and in high demand. Today, I will share with you the 5 commandments of an elite cybersecurity professional and some tips to set you in the right direction. Let's begin. Because this is a serious topic, I have decided to don my Shakespeare hat and use Old English to name each commandment. I hope you are kind enough to appreciate the wittiness of my endeavor. Starting with the first commandment, thou shalt know how to defend and how to attack. Every time someone reaches out to me to ask for advice on how to break into cybersecurity, my advice can be summarized as read and learn as much as you can, and then determine what piques your interest. A good starting point is understanding whether you gravitate more towards offensive or defensive security. When most people think of cybersecurity, hackers and conspiracies are often the first things that come to mind. And these might be the only aspects of the field that they consider exciting. And this is no different for those aspiring to enter this domain, as hacking is considered cool. Now, don't get me wrong, hacking can be cool if you live somewhere in a basement in Southeast Asia, surrounded by a bunch of monitors, substantial amount of Bitcoin, and your answer to the question, what do you do for a living, is I am a front-end developer. And of course, no one is going to dig deeper into that answer because, quite frankly, being a front-end developer is already painful enough. And then while returning home or to your basement at the end of the night, you realize that all those digital nomads getting shit-faced in Bali and evading taxes will never understand what it's like to swim in internet money and sleep with a gun under your pillow. And all of this because you fear that your house may be raided due to dropping ransomware on the server of a struggling business. A business that can barely make ends meet, let alone hire mendiant. And I promised myself that I would stop with the sarcastic jokes, but I just can't help it. Now, jokes aside, what you think you know about cybersecurity is most likely wrong, and the best way to rectify this is by reading and learning as much as you can. Starting by understanding whether you lean more towards offensive or defensive security is a good starting point. However, and this is the focus of this commandment, you must be able to comprehend both offensive and defensive security, because they are two sides of the same coin. And as an example, an attacker can be much more effective if they understand how defenders detect and block them. On the other hand, a defender can be much more effective if they understand the attack points typically chosen by most attackers. And as a final note for this commandment, never forget that your life can take a 180 turn at any time, and you may find yourself burned out or bored with your current job, or you find out that there are much better opportunities on the other side of the fence. Second commandment, thou shalt be a user and an engineer. Now think of any problem you may face in your day-to-day life. Perhaps you feel unmotivated on Mondays. You may be struggling with staying on a diet. Or perhaps you'd like to be notified whenever one of your loved ones is feeling unwell. Regardless of your problem, I can assure you that there is a company, application, or perhaps a podcast that addresses your issue. I find that entrepreneurship has become such a massive phenomenon because as we progress technologically, we become lazier and we seek solutions for every problem or inefficiency we encounter daily. This opens up many niche markets that are ready to be explored by people who manage to identify a need. And the problem with this is that we have become consumers and we completely forgot how to become producers. Now, all of this speech makes me sound like I'm going on a tangent, but I'm really not. As an elite cybersecurity professional, you need to be ready not only to use the tools that exist to enhance your capabilities, but also to be able to develop them. And the reason for this is quite simple. Tools come and go. Given the low entry barrier in IT and cybersecurity, the market is flooded with ideas and tools on a daily basis. Most tools and products that you know today will become obsolete in a few years from now. But the fundamentals and architecture underlying them will always remain relevant. How to become an engineer, you ask? It's quite simple. Start by learning how to code. And if you want to go even further, learn about architecture patterns, such as architecture patterns that are commonly observed in cloud environments. A cybersecurity professional with strong engineering skills will always stay ahead of the tool experts. And being an engineer ties into the next commandment. And my favorite commandment, commandment number 3, thou shalt become a problem solver. Problem solver has become a cliche in job specs, together with fast-paced environments and competitive salary. But unlike most idiocies found in job specs, this one is definitely worth paying attention to. An elite cybersecurity professional is not passive or complacent. They don't merely wait for instructions or spend their days clicking buttons and closing tickets. They are proactive and always on the lookout for inefficiencies and opportunities for improvement. And they take the lead in driving change. And the reason why problem solvers are so well paid and highly sought after is because they move the needle. And their impact reverberates through time thanks to the power of processes and automation. While an engineer is typically a problem solver, there are many instances of problem solvers that are not engineers. As an example, let's imagine that data governance at your current workplace is an absolute mess. For that reason, you decide to gather together a couple of teams such as analytics, DevOps, and security, and you drive a project that addresses this issue. This endeavor will involve processes, data pipelines, tagging, etc., which you can simply delegate to the engineers. And in this instance, you become a problem solver by driving the project and coordinating the teams. And even if you are a SecOps analyst, you can become a problem solver starting today or probably tomorrow if it's already night for you. If your days are spent closing alerts, start by finding new innovative ways to detect new threats by combining your SIEM and existing security tools that you may have in place at your current company. And this will definitely put you ahead of most of your colleagues that simply spend their days closing alerts and then head to the pub. And before my former FireEye colleagues message me with death threats because of my pub joke, remember, I am trying to build elite cybersecurity professionals in this channel. Fourth commandment, thou shalt adapt and overcome. One of the biggest mistakes that existing and aspiring cybersecurity professionals make is becoming experts in a technology or viewing the field as a collection of tools they must master. This mindset is detrimental and will inevitably lead you down the road of obsolescence. Don't get me wrong, tools are quite invaluable, but they are merely an extension of you. Very few inventions withstand the test of time, and even those that do ultimately adapt and transform because needs change. Remember sysadmins? How about database experts? They have evolved into DevOps, EngOps, or any variation of Dev, Eng, and Sec. Case in point, technology is moving too fast, dragging everything from processes to skills at warp speed. As a cybersecurity professional, this means that you cannot afford to be tethered to a specific technology. You must be adaptable and be able to expand your knowledge to other domains. My career has been a continuous shift between fields. And at this point, I know what I like and what I don't like. And at the same time, I also have a much better view of cybersecurity when compared to someone that has stayed in the same field for many years. How can you become more versatile? It's quite simple. Just start by focusing on fundamentals rather than complexity layers. Rather than learning a tool, learn how to build a tool. Instead of learning how to deploy a web application on a provider such as Heroku, build your own infrastructure on AWS and deploy your application there. Remember that abstractions may change over time, but fundamentals will always reign supreme. Last commandment, thou shalt strike a balance between nerd and human. A common misconception that new joiners and existing professionals have about this field is that what gets you a job is purely your technical skills. Now, this could not be further from the truth, as a stellar cyber professional is able to strike a fine balance between hard and soft skills. Now, I remember this interview for a position in the UK that was similar to the threat research position that I had at Cisco at the time, but with some slight differences. I was interviewed by the manager of the team, who was a highly accomplished professional and a strong technical speaker. Now, this interview will go down as the most unpleasant interview I've ever had in my life, because the manager was extremely arrogant and a terrible interviewer. I have always believed up to that point that as a manager you should be as technical as possible, because under such circumstances you are much more likely to empathize with the struggles of your direct reports. Now, I was not entirely wrong, and to an extent I still believe this to this day. Now, the problem starts when you decide to invest on your technical skills to the detriment of your soft skills. In this case, what happened was the manager was a highly technical professional with little to no soft skills. Now, another instance occurred at one of my previous companies, where a colleague of mine and I were interviewing a candidate for the team. And by the end of the interview, I felt that he was not a good fit. His technical skills were okay, but his sense of humor and his ability to connect with us was severely lacking. However, as someone pragmatic, these seemed like poor reasons to exclude the candidate. Then later, during the debriefing, my colleague spoke first, and he said something along the lines, his personality doesn't really match ours because he was serious all the time and couldn't even manage a smile. As you can see in this case, soft skills are quite important, and they ended up costing this candidate a job. Now, I know that companies try to address these by having multiple interviews, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 interviews to avoid these biases. But unfortunately, that doesn't really solve the problem, as I will discuss in another video. Now, IT and security fields attract lots of oddballs and snowflakes. Introversion is almost an epidemic in this field, and most tend to overcompensate by excelling technically. Your technical skills can only get you so far. And even during a technical interview, people are looking for someone they will enjoy working with. So make sure that your soft skills are on point. And there you have it, Spartans. The 5 commandments of an elite cybersecurity professional, aka a CyberSpartan. Currently, most of you are CyberSpartans in the making. But stick with me and you will see a major change sooner than you think. I promise. Please let me know in the comment section below which commandment you feel that you may be missing. And I will be sure to leave a like to send positive cyber vibes your way. Until next time, stay safe, stay paranoid.